A lot has happened in the last 18 months. I literally just sat here for the last hour trying to actually start this video. I just sit here, I flick through stuff, procrastinate on it, found the time to go and get coffee, and then a tea. But the title and the plan for this video is simple. Make a video over the next 2 or 3 days, which I then 100% promise I will put out on my own channel and start making something. Oh, by the way, this video, Dell said we'll sponsor a video if you make it. And that was kind of one of the nudges that I needed, but it is a sponsored video. Let me be clear, I'm incredibly lucky to do what I do. A lot of my job is sitting down, talking football, basketball, fighting, NFL, playing computer games, just getting to chat to people like you. And those are all dreams which I really love living out. These other dreams, these dreams that I've had since I was a kid, since I was very, very young, these are dreams that I've spent so much time trying to build. These are dreams that if I didn't even try with them, then I wouldn't feel that I was being true to me. There's times where those things can feel like they're slipping away. Now, they might not be, but they can feel that way. And whilst there might be things that you've heard me talk about before, sometimes it is weird to think of people seeing you in a new light and them not liking that light as much as the podcast or the football, streaming, or the person they see you as on another show. There's always a worry that then the wheels come off, or that people don't like it, or that you do it wrong. But that's why that's important to me. And I'll be honest, I feel like I'd created very narrow streams that I then fit myself into that I didn't want to be in. You are just a YouTuber, or you are just a streamer, or you are just someone who helps someone else, or you are just a sidekick, or you are just any of these things. Factors which can become restraining in the end. They don't help. Right, you are into subscribers, views, minutes watched, brand deals done, the best equipment, you're behind this guy, behind that guy, and none of that really fits into the dream that I want to have, which is actually about making something. And then when lockdown came around, I realized that I wanted to do it all. I wanted to be that streamer, the director, the podcaster, all these things, and I wanted to be multifaceted, but I also didn't see that you had to start somewhere, and so it became incredibly overwhelming to try to achieve any of those things, because I wanted to achieve all of those things at once with Brian, and at the same time doing my own stuff. So this might seem like quite a broad video. My goal is to make actually quite focused videos and put them here or another platform if someone, if someone comes along. I'd hope that the people around me would tell you that I am creative enough to achieve a lot of these things, or I am capable of doing this stuff. I need to work methodically and well, and sometimes see where things take me as opposed to trying to make them fit into what I've always done. Most of the time, you only really get that luxury from funding, which most of the time comes from an audience. So we're going to build something up here, and I can easily work with that. So this is that promise to chase all those hopes and dreams that remain alongside all those new ones that we've made together. And you can call it whatever you want: speaking it into existence, manifesting it, praying for it, whatever you want to call it. Anyone who knows me knows that there are aspects of my personality which are good and sort of detrimental in equal measure. One, I'm extremely messy. I almost said perfectionist first, but I realized that sounds like one of those job interview things where people sort of go, what would you say is your weakness? I'd say my perfectionism. I'm very messy. And I mean like really messy. I don't, unless it comes to digital stuff, I'm really messy. I don't like that, but I've literally always been that way. And part of that is because I know in the mess where those things that I need are. Well, I might need that in 20 minutes, or I might need that in 10. And the second one is I have elements of perfectionism, I think like anyone, and I really just wait for everything to be perfect in order to do it. I was giving a lot of advice to people who were messaging me on Instagram or messaging me on Twitter or emailing, and they were saying, what's the biggest piece of advice that you can give me to start making videos? And my advice was always just do it. Get down to it and make whatever it is that you want to make. And even if it isn't perfect the first time, you're building up to something. When I was younger, actually, I had a Dell. I actually had a Dell computer, not a laptop. And it was the first computer we ever had. It felt really fancy at the time because it was the 90s. Half the fun at that time, there weren't really that many tips to do stuff. So you just had to work it out for yourself. So you just recorded stuff on a dusty old microphone and then put it into Audacity and just try to work out what to do to it. I would always wait for the perfect time, the perfect day, the perfect moment. And that has stuck with me until this point. And it's one thing that I always think, why are you waiting? And I think that comes from the third thing, which is the idealism of a lot of what I try to do, and the fact that I want it to be pretty perfect And why, when it doesn't feel perfect, I will stop. I was watching a lot of other people grasping the moment, doing something, and it not necessarily being perfect, but it being a vehicle for what they wanted to do. And I didn't get annoyed with them. If anything, I was really impressed with them. Friends of mine, like Brian and Rory and James Alcott, and does this paint me in a good light? I don't know. And I found myself wanting to work out why it was that I wasn't making my own videos. Why it was that I wasn't doing something more, because I had the time, I had everything. And I'll be honest, I didn't know why, and this isn't really an excuse or anything. It's just sort of, you're watching these other people do things that you want to do. Why aren't you doing it? I mean, for instance, like, I've never really thought of myself as a particularly good public speaker. So I'd love to work on that. Like, how I speak. You know what I mean? Like, the intonation and the words, the way they sort of come out, and sometimes they can sound a bit condescending or a bit know-it-all. And sometimes that's really hard to break when you get into a trend in other places. So to give yourself space or time, and to have that luxury of that time and that space to be able to do that, I'd be stupid to waste that. Like an idiot to waste. I'd be an idiot to waste this. Maybe I have been an idiot. I went, well, I'll prepare for a while, but I just kept preparing and I kept doing research, and that's partly where, like, all these books come from, and the buying of cameras, which are incredible, and getting a laptop that was going to let me edit all this stuff, and putting a process in place. And suddenly I realized that I felt ready. So I took maybe too long to read some of these books, and I just really want to share some of these books with you. The first one was something I discovered in like my first year of university, and it's a tiny little book, but it's, the medium is the massage, in not a David Brent way, but it is the medium is the message by Mcluhan. And this book, to me, the first time I read it, like, look, there's not even you don't really have to do that much reading. You just have to do observing. This, like, text everything that I had been thinking and feeling from working on a laptop to reading. I hated reading as a kid, and it was written in the 60s, and I didn't understand how something that was written in the 60s could still be relevant now. But this guy predicted the internet. Every time I read it, I'm reminded of the things and the techniques and the ideas that when maybe you watch a video of mine, you'll go, of course. I have many copies of these because I often gift them to people. I sort of leave them hanging around in different rooms. Maybe because I'm lazy, maybe because I'm messy. And then I don't actually have the book, probably because I'm messy. The original one that I found was actually Show Your Work. I was so obsessed with this book because I wasn't doing that I went and bought the other ones, which would also Keep Going, 10 Ways to Stay Creative in Good Times and Bad. And then Steal Like an Artist, 10 Things Nobody Told You About Being Creative. And that was kind of it. I was watching other people and going, well, that's their idea. This is completely their thing. And I completely missed the point in the first place. Then there was Carl Jung. I bought this and then a couple of other books and read it. And it's all about looking at the shadow in this. Then this, which is one of the most expressive people ever, and probably one of the most cliched books that anyone in East London ever owns. It was just before XO started, and I looked at all these drawings, and I looked at all of this repurposing of ideas and of form. It was the most perfect book I ever bought. I read it every night. Like, some of these ideas from this book were probably stolen and put into some of my own stuff, like the drawing over the XO logo. I heard about this from... Hold on a minute. It's not this book. This isn't even ad integration. Range. It's called Range. Anyway, I heard this guy interviewed on a podcast, Zach Lowe, and Range was about people who did a lot of things. The story we always tell ourselves, and this is what really spoke to me, everything had to go perfectly for someone like Tiger Woods. He practiced. We know about every athlete. Those people have spent their whole life dedicating 10,000 hours, all these different ideas. And these books were about kind of busting that myth, if you like. Some people didn't always do that. Roger Federer spent a lot of time before he was 18 playing other sports, and it still led to him being good at what he did because he was physically adept at so many other things. And I began to kind of feel that way because I wanted so badly to be a director, and I still really hold on to that as a dream. Partly I do that. I direct things with Brian, and I direct things with kind of myself in. The final goal is I want to direct documentary. I want to direct some fiction. I felt like I was doing so many things. I was editing, I was shooting. The whole time I was going, you're not directing. I was learning about how to direct a cameraman, how to give feedback to an editor, how to mix sound, tell someone how to frame a frame. What things do I need to hear off Brian or whoever I'm doing something with so that I can make that happen on a screen. This then was about the inner game of tennis, which is actually kind of about tennis. The games that you play with yourself and the kind of the inner monologue that your mind has. Positive thought, basically, and to some extent affirming what it is that you want to do and not telling yourself that you're not capable of it. So instead of concentrating on how to improve your technique, it starts from the understanding that every game is composed of two parts, an outer game and an inner game. It is often won or lost before the ball has been hit. I like this book. And then the final one, which I still don't know why the death of Kobe Bryant was something that felt so significant to me. I'd just been in Paris for the NBA game the day before he died. Why is this hard to talk about? I actually don't know. I'm not even a fan of the Lakers. Who was pregnant at the time, and because we'd just been to Paris, and then she come back while I went to the NBA game, I said, well, I'll take you to a hotel and we'll go for a spa night. And it was that night that... Why is this? I don't know why I'm even talking about this. And I think because I was going to be a dad, and I knew how significant that was going to be, and I felt it hit. And it was, and he was so determined, was so single-minded, and that was something I really appreciated about someone who seemed so adept in so many different things. They would ask so many questions of other people, and I related to that. And so this book again, it's kind of just pictures and a lot of text, which a lot of it is not truisms, but it is kind of stuff that feels very specific to Kobe Bryant. But it's that element of him being involved with Jordan, him being involved with very significant things that when I was growing up, they were big sporting moments for me. These were things that influenced me. And so I've always been inspired by what Kobe did on and off the court in terms of all those things. And what hit me most was that this was someone who was just going into another phase in their life and they didn't get the chance to complete that. And that same fear is partly what motivates, or is an element of what motivates me. I'm sitting on piles and piles of hard drive. This is all photo. This is from a shoot. This is the footage from Paris. This is some boxing stuff that I shot with Brian that I don't even know if you've ever seen. This was from the Zion documentary. That's the genius part of this. Exactly. There's so much stuff that I'm sitting on from this. And I want to make sports documentaries. This was from the Poker Stars film that we shot. Is Memories. This is blank, full of footage. I mean, that's 5 terabytes. And I was frozen to make a video from it. I'm proud of the stuff I've made with Brian. I'm proud of the kickoff. I'm proud of the showdown. I'm proud of the knockout. I'm proud of the rebuild. I'm proud of all that stuff. But there is a sense of responsibility that I do kind of want to give myself here to make a video and to further something through that. Maybe YouTube isn't necessarily the platform for that, but maybe YouTube's the start of that. Now comes the integration part, which is about having the tools at your disposal that you need. I'm not telling you to go out there and buy the most expensive laptop. I'm not even going to tell you the specs of this one, though you can probably find them if you want to. It's a Dell XPS. The point is less about how beautiful the keyboard is, which it is, or how brilliant the trackpad is, which it is, or how fast this is, which it is, but that you need something that is going to let you make, be that photos, be that, typing out something for an essay if you're just about to go to university, or a dissertation, or a video editing piece. You can just stick a card in the side that you've just shot your video on and assess your rushes, do whatever it is you need to do. When you spend enough time at a screen, you need it to be something that is going to make you happy to be around it, and not just something which is I have to sit down at this thing again. You don't have to buy the fastest. You don't have to buy the most spec'd out. You don't have to be the person who has the best laptop in the room in order to be the best filmmaker. You just have to have a tool that's going to serve you. Now, the better the spec, the more likely it is to be able to handle whatever footage you've got. But if you've got a laptop that isn't exactly spec'd out, you can still proxy your footage. You can still take your time, plan, you can still use it for scripting. The point is not to get you to buy a laptop, especially get you to buy the most expensive one, because that's not what Dell asked me to do. But what they did ask me to do is advocate that these kind of tools get you to where you want to go. Bear in mind, you're going to be carrying this around with you a lot. So make it something that's solid, make it something that you actually want to open. It's got to have a good keyboard, it's got to have good speakers, it's got to have all the plugs and everything else that you need it to have in order for you to make something. And this does. Find something that suits you and get started on it. I've streamed a lot over the last year with Brian and, Rory and those guys, but I knew where I wanted to focus, but I didn't know how, so I didn't. And I was busy watching other people, and I could make a massive excuse and say, hey, I just let that time go by. But I do want to frame that time positively. So what I'm going to say about it is I spent a lot of time learning from other people, and I spent a lot of time learning what I was doing wrong. So now I'm going to try and do it right. Doesn't mean nailing it first time, but it does mean attempting it. What I did realize over the last year was I hadn't spent a lot of time on screen like I had in previous years on podcasts or talking and sort of expressing stuff. People didn't really know me as well as I thought they did. See me in different environments and thinking, wow, that guy's not who I thought or not what I think. And maybe I wasn't happy with that portrayal. And more recently, obviously, a lot of my experiences online have been that people have seen me sometimes in a negative light. And it wasn't so much that in that moment I thought, wow, you're wrong. I thought, wow, from what you've seen and from what I've shown you, you might be right. I'm not going to spend any time proving people wrong, but I am going to prove what it is that I think and what I think I share with other people. I can't. This is a promise to do that and to keep doing that.